Hello. Just to be clear for everyone seeing this, I am a version of Chris Pelkey recreated through AI that uses my picture and my voice profile. I was able to be digitally regenerated to share with you today. But here is insight into who I actually was in real life. Take a look.
So you guys might not have heard about this, but we have hit a crucial point in the United States in terms of AI and how it relates to the American criminal justice system. Recently, in an Arizona courtroom out of Maricopa County, we had a victim impact statement that was presented to a judge post-conviction that was actually an AI-generated version of the victim pleading for mercy for his killer in terms of his sentence, and I find this to be absolutely ridiculous that it was allowed. And in addition to that, this creates a bunch of different problems in court cases going forward if the precedent of allowing these types of statements is to stand going forward. Now, we're going to get into this. We are going to break this down. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
All right. I'm Chris Pelkey. I served with the United States Army in the infantry. I'm from upstate New York. And what else?
Where'd you deploy?
Where'd I deploy? I went to Baghdad in 2006, 2008, and then I went to Afghanistan in 09 to 10. I think the number one thing is God. Is having a relationship with the Lord and being close with Him, and that He really is the only answer to every problem we have, everything we go through. We got to do it with Jesus at our side. Everything else I've tried has failed. And aside from that, just like Jesus says, love God and love people.
So that video right there of an interview with Christopher Pelkey, who is the victim in this road rage incident turned homicide, is a real video. It's edited in with the AI in order to make this presentation, but I think it's very important for you guys to understand how this AI statement came to be. So obviously we have the case at hand where you have a road rage incident where I believe Christopher Pelkey actually got out of the car, he approached the other vehicle, shots were fired upon him, and he ultimately ended up dying as a consequence of this incident. And to be clear, I actually think them not having a murder conviction in this particular case, because it's obviously an aggravated kind of situation and would definitely be more akin to manslaughter, makes perfect sense. So I'm not saying that the suspect who was convicted of this should go away for life in this particular case, because the charges and the situation just don't meet the level of homicide. This was clearly and obviously a manslaughter, but of course, post this whole thing going down, we ended up in a situation where the family members are asked, in case there's a conviction, to write out what are called victim impact statements. And there's a woman at the center of this who is the sister of this particular man who decided to come up with this AI generation method. And by the way, there's something about this that honestly makes me sick, and I think I really need to get into it.
So, as you can see from my video, I recorded in 2021. This here is a true representation of who I was, not how the courtroom portrayed me. So I would like to make my own impact statement. So, hello everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot. I can't tell you how humbled I am for those that spoke up for me, everyone who flew in, took off work, those who are watching this remotely, and for everyone who has supported my family and loved ones through 3.5 years and 2 trials. I wish I could be with you all today. To your honor, Judge Lang, thank you for making yourself available to see this case to the end.
We go to the CNN article, and it says, Stacey Wales spent 2 years working on a victim impact statement she planned to give to the court after her brother was shot to death in 2021 in a road rage incident. But even after all that time, Wales felt her statement wouldn't be enough to capture her brother, Christopher Pelkey's humanity, and what he would have wanted to say. So Wales decided to let Pelkey give the statement himself with the help of artificial intelligence. That's when she and her husband created an AI-generated video of Pelkey to play during his killer sentencing hearing earlier this month that read in a recreation in Pelkey's own voice, a script that Wales wrote. in the AI version, Pelkey expressed forgiveness for the shooter, something Wales said she knew her brother would have done, but she wasn't ready to do herself just yet. Okay, so we have the sister of the victim in this particular case, and she is insistent on the fact that her brother would have forgiven this person, would have forgiven the man that killed him because he was a Christian, because he was a man of God, and that's where her brother was in her mind, and she didn't want that to not be reflected in this particular court proceeding. But rather than say that in her own victim impact statement, she decided that with her husband, who actually works at an AI corporation, that they would make him say it himself. And to be clear, this is not AI where they take a big summary of what this man was and they generate a natural statement that he would have said. This is the sister's words, her own script being delivered by him to this courtroom. And to me, that seems to be extra egregious and extra ridiculous. And it also is something that makes me want to clarify that if I'm ever murdered by somebody, if somebody ever takes my life, that I definitely 100% wanted to live. I definitely 100% do not forgive the person who killed me. And I definitely 100% disavow any of my family members that forgive the person who wanted to kill me, or that are happening to work for or are married to somebody who's running an AI company, who think that my death is a good opportunity in order to get some publicity for their company because they decided to do something ridiculous and absurd in a courtroom. But even beyond that, even beyond the fact that we have Stacey Wales' husband being in charge of this AI video generation company, and this is actually one big advertisement, I just want to say that obviously we cannot allow this to happen going forward, because in this particular case, there's not an objection from the defense or anything of the sort, because the AI generated image ended up saying, hey, I want mercy for this guy, let him off easy, he's an innocent Baba Angel Aladdin who didn't do nothing wrong, and obviously that is not going to be considered as a violation of the defendant's rights. But what happens when people want to use AI in the other direction, the much more sensible direction, the direction where they don't forgive the person who murdered them, where the AI says, yes, I wanted to live, I definitely didn't want to be killed in this particular situation, and that is put forward before a judge during the victim impact statement period. Obviously, in that particular circumstance, that is going to be used in order to enhance a sentence against somebody, and that will be considered a violation of the defendant's rights in that particular situation. And again, in Arizona, in Maricopa County, because this judge is an absolute dumbass, he has now opened the door for other judges to do this in other situations, which of course is going to lead to improper sentencing, challenges throughout the state Supreme Court, all the way to the high court of the land, and you just can't have this nonsense. If you want to release this statement to the public so they can see it, so they can see what your husband's AI company can do, feel free. I think it's disgusting. I think it's ridiculous. I definitely would not do it, and I definitely would condemn it, even though I understand that it's your family member, and you have the right to present yourself in such a way that you think is fitting for that family member, but I find it to be gross, make no mistake about it, but that's on you. But you can't bring it into a courtroom. We need standards for evidence. We need standards for testimony, and yes, that includes victim impact testimony whenever you're trying to sentence somebody. I mean, again, imagine if they brought somebody in who didn't know the victim, and they presented themselves as a relative or as a loved one of the victim, and they gave a crazy statement about how sad they were, and that swayed the judge into enhancing a sentence. That swayed the judge into maybe considering the death penalty. Let's say it was in the sentencing phase of this particular case, and it was a death penalty case. You think that would stand? You think that would be kosher? Obviously it wouldn't. So you can't open the door in this direction just because in this particular case, this woman wants to advertise her husband's AI company, and in addition to that, they're asking for a lighter sentence.
Thank you for listening to everyone today. Thank you for reading the flood of impact statements that came in before today that so many people wrote on my behalf. Every single one of them is meaningful and gives a glimpse into my life with each of them. To Gabriel Horcasitas, the man who shot me. It is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends. I believe in forgiveness and in God who forgives. I always have, and I still do.
Now, I find this also to be gross right here, where they're like, oh, if we met in another way, we would have been friends. And honestly, like, you don't have the right to say that. You don't have the right to script that out and then put it in the mouth of somebody who's shot to death by this individual in this heinous crime and then present it before court. And of course, the judge ended up responding to this. Now, of course, we don't know 100% what went into the sentencing, but I will read you an account from the courtroom of how the judge reacted to this, so you guys could tell me what you think about the sentence that was handed down, and of course, how the judge spoke about the sentence that he was handing down. According to CNN, Judge Todd Lang of Maricopa County Superior Court ultimately sentenced Pelkey's killer, Gabriel Paul Horasistis, to 10.5 years for manslaughter, although the state had asked for only 9.5 years and 12.5 years in total, including an endangerment charge. The judge said, quote, "I love that AI. Thank you for that," he said during a recording of the hearing. "As angry as you are, and justifiably angry as the family is, I heard forgiveness." So as I just read to you right there, the judge was asked to give a 9.5-year sentence for the manslaughter charge and 3 additional years for the reckless endangerment, totaling up to 12.5 years. And I say up to because we all understand you only have to serve about half to 2/3 of your sentence, depending on the state that you are convicted. But he ended up deciding to go with 10.5 years on the manslaughter charge, which is 1 year more than the prosecution asked for that charge, but it's actually 2 years less than they asked for in total, and I guess he sentenced the endangerment charge concurrently, and that's how he arrived on that time. And if we're being perfectly honest, it does not appear that this victim impact statement really did all that much to lessen this particular sentence, but the fact is, the precedent is set in this particular case, and going forward, we could have an example where yes, in fact, a sentence is reduced due to the fact that you have a family member that obviously is soft on crime ideologically and has decided to put those words in their dead relative's mouth. In addition to that, again, the company connection, getting this out there, getting the news attention behind this, appears to be a secondary motivation for the victim's family because the husband works for a company that produces these types of AIs. Wales and her husband, Tim Wales, work in tech. She said they'd previously created AI video replicas of former CEOs and founders to speak at company conferences. So they decided in the weeks leading up to the sentencing hearing to try to replicate Pelkey in the same way. They used several software platforms, trained on photos and an old video of Pelkey to create an AI replica that was shown in a hearing on May 1st, and on the day of the sentencing hearing, Wales called her lawyer, Jessica Gattuso, to get her blessing for the plan. Quote, "I was concerned, thought we would get an objection or some kind of pushback. I did what research I could, but I couldn't find anything because I've never heard of this being done," Gattuso told CNN, adding that she ultimately relied on an Arizona law that gives victims discretion in how to deliver their impact statement.
To my family and everyone that I've met along the way, it was a lot of fun. You know, I always had a lot of fun. Love each other because you never know how long you have. But make the most of each day and live your life. It is okay to stumble. God has you. Remember, getting old is a gift that not everybody has. So embrace it and stop worrying about those wrinkles. I once played with one of those filters on your phone where you can make yourself look old. I shared it with a cousin of ours years ago. This is the best I can ever give you to what I would have looked like if I got the chance to grow old. Scary, huh? No, really. Thank you to everyone for being here. It means more than you know. Well, I'm gonna go fishing now. Love you all.
So this is what I find to be additionally disgusting about this. It would be one thing if they decided to pay a company out of their own pocket in order to produce this, but it appears they work in a company that is trying to sell this to other people, and this was allowed under the guise of an Arizona law that says that victim impact statements can be delivered in the manner that the victim wants them to be delivered. But again, in this particular case, they are putting words in the dead person's mouth, bringing them back to life digitally in order to plead for mercy for the killer, and I find that to be gross. And by the way, I want to make this clear to everybody out there in the audience, this isn't one of those things where we're talking about a partisan issue where the Democrats are in favor of these soft victim impact statements, but the Republicans are against it, because these types of situations have come up in other states in the union, and while Arizona is a purple state that recently went red in the last election, we have the solid blue state, New York State, and the judges had a much different reaction to the attempt to bring back somebody via AI in order to address the court. And honestly, I give a lot of respect to these New York judges for not having that nonsense. In a separate case in New York last month, an appellate judge quickly shut down an attempt by a plaintiff to have an AI-generated avatar argue the case without clarifying that it was not a real person. And just last week, a federal judicial panel advanced a draft rule that would require AI-generated evidence to meet the same reliability standards as evidence from a human expert witness, according to Reuters. So that New York appellate judge said hell no, absolutely not, to this AI-generated nonsense being introduced in their courtroom, but even the federal courts are trying to draft rules about treating AI as if it's an expert witness, and I just want to point out that that's also a direction I'm not willing to go into. But of course, I'm going to leave this here to you guys out there in the audience because I want to know what you guys think about this particular case. Obviously, we have the victim's sister that is behind this AI. We have the company connection in that her and her husband work in tech, but again, it is their right to a certain extent, and I can hear the argument for this, to put words in their dead relative's mouth in a way that it's not for any other random person, if you want to make that argument. I happen to find this disgusting, but of course, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about using an AI-generated victim impact statement. Till next time.